What is the crack, everyone? It's Nathan here, aka the Rambling Kern, and head instructor of Kern School of Combat. So, a bit of an exciting video for today. This is one that I have been in the works with for a while, mainly due to getting these materials is somewhat difficult and it's a slightly costly endeavour. So if you do want to sponsor the work I do, you will find my Patreon in the description. Anything you can donate, I am very grateful for. So this test is to basically see what a shillelagh will do to a skull analogue. I will test this with just two kind of standard strikes that are commonly seen in the two styles that I've learned. So that will be a strike from the Doro style and a common strike from the Antrim style, and you will see me do both. I've done this previously in my coconut tests, and I want to kind of have a standard example of each so that you can see. I chose to stick the skull analogue that I'm using on top of a post. That way the post could move around a little bit, but also would still be roughly around head height, because I didn't want it to be striking down onto something, and I didn't want something that would swing too violently. So to kind of run through how the test was done, a student of mine who I train with gave me one of these. This is called a sin bone, SYN. I will put up some information about these and how these are used for testing, but these are used for archaeological tests, and I'll actually link to a paper that is used to test Neolithic wooden war clubs to see the sort of impacts and damage that they would do to a skull. So I thought these would kind of be the perfect analogue for what I'm trying to do, which is a very similar wooden war club, and see how it would do. So this is basically a ceramic pot, like a specialized ceramic covering, with a latex skin over the outside. So the skin kind of holds it together and mimics the skin that you would have on your skull, and the inside is filled, according to their instructions, with ballistic shell. So for those who don't know what ballistic shell is, that is this. It is a see-through, as you can see there, going to be see-through gel-like or jelly-like substance. It is quite tough, as you can see, even though it is a jelly. And this is used all over the world to replicate human flesh. Now, it's a little bit tougher than human flesh, but the main reason why I'm using it when testing this, and why it was used for this, is that it keeps together and has the same sort of consistency when the flesh is hit. And this test is not to test what the shillelagh does to the tissue, but to test what it will do to the skull. Now, as you'll see in the papers themselves, it shows that often you'll see slightly excessive cracking due to the nature of it, but it still gives a very good indication as to what the breakages would look like. So I'm going to bring this one out, I'm going to test this, and I'll report back after. I will be using a shillelagh to test it, which will be a blacksmith shillelagh. I'm not going to use this one. This is an older one I have. I'm going to use the one that you've seen in the other videos again, so that I have that consistent approach across all my videos. I want to ensure that I'm giving the best accuracy across all my videos that I can. So I'll be using the other one. It's downstairs at the moment, but this is what I'll be using on our analogue, and I'll report back when we're done. So I hope you enjoy. This is the blackthorn stick I was using, one you've seen in other videos. The skull itself was on a post fixed to a 10 kilo base to allow it to move freely. I would first start with the stick punch for the Doro style. With one single strike to assess the damage, and then tried 3 more. As you can see here, it was mainly soft tissue damage, marking up the skin on the outside of the skull itself. So after the initial few strikes, I wanted to try a flurry of strikes to see what sort of damage I could get. It was quite difficult hitting a circular object like this, as the stick had a tendency to want to bounce off of it at different angles. But I did want to try a number of strikes to see if I could cause any fractures in the skull itself. Now, it's a little bit difficult to see with the daylight, so I circled the marks here. As you can see, these were breaking through the skin on the outside of the skull and would have definitely caused a lot of damage if that was a human face, but there wasn't any skull fractures or anything like that. Next up, I wanted to try a head strike, commonly seen in the Antrim style. This strike itself wasn't full power. It was quite a quick strike. I was quite surprised to see, even with that, there was an immediate fracture right in the top of the skull, as you can see here. Next up, I tried an oblique strike. This is more of a horizontal strike towards the skull. This one ended up being a little bit more at 45 degrees. And as you can see, hit with quite a considerable amount of force. And as you can see here, fractured all the way, almost completely around the skull. As you can see from this hairline fracture, with the impact point there, going all the way up and over to the far side of the skull itself. Finally then, I wanted to try this upward rising strike, often seen in the Doha style. As you can see, this one hit with considerable force, and you can see it did a serious amount of damage to the skull. Quite likely there was fractures already in it from previous strikes, but it did a considerable amount of damage to that side. As you can see later on, when I removed the gel from within it, you can see the impact mark here on the actual flesh itself, which is quite impressive. The skull was pretty much destroyed at this point. I decided to finish it off with this medieval warhammer. Highlight how scary those warhammers are and just show the depth of which that spike went into that skull. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. Some really interesting stuff in that video, and a lot of things I didn't expect. It took me a little bit longer to get to the video than I had hoped, hence the numerous outfit changes. Weather in Ireland, as you probably know, is a little bit unpredictable. But yeah, a lot of really interesting results. Now, like I mentioned in the voiceover, the stick punches, while they didn't, break the bone, you could see the chipping on the skin and skull. So, I think that would do a serious amount of damage to the soft tissue, especially on somewhere like the face. Quite eye-opening as to how the stick would bounce around. Obviously, on a spherical object, it's a bit different to a head or a body, but quite interesting in that way. And amazing how little effort and force was needed for the larger swings to really impact and cause a lot of damage. And that is something that I said before. It's one of the primary reasons why I don't use blackthorn sticks at all during training or sparring. Like you saw there, it was a very quick, snappy shot. Fractured that skull with ease. So if that was fingers or face, it would not be something I would be comfortable using. I know people have different opinions on that. That is fine, but I just we use rattan in my school because we feel it's a lot safer, and you guys have seen why. Now, if you enjoyed that and you'd like future videos like that, or future tests similar to that, please do let me know. If there's any particular things you would like to see tested, let me know. I have a few tests I'll be doing in the upcoming weeks, so hopefully those will be of interest to you guys. There will be a few other little bits. I have a little bit of gel left over, so I'm going to try some things with that. And I might even be able to get hold of a few more of those skulls. So if there's any sort of tests that you guys want to see, let me know in the comments. I'd be more than happy to do it. And of course, like I've mentioned before, this is all out of my own back pocket. So if you would like to sponsor the channel, you can donate through Patreon. I'd be very, very grateful if you did. But of course, there's no obligation to do that either. If you could just subscribe to the channel, and give us an old thumbs up. It makes a big difference. So once again, I hope you enjoyed that. It was a fair bit of effort's gone into this video, but I do really hope that you've all enjoyed it. I think this is quite a fascinating test, and it's one that I've always wanted to do, so having access to these materials to do it, I think is superb. The setup itself, I think, was probably the best sort of option I could get. You know, it was on a stand. The stand could kind of move somewhat freely, and the skull itself was able to move around it, similar to how a head would move. So I think that was probably the best and most kind of accurate method I could think of, without obviously having a professional setup. So like I said, you know, let me know what you think. I really do appreciate you for watching, and if you made it this far, fair play. I do appreciate it. So once again, thank you all for supporting the channel. We just passed 2,000 subscribers, and that is huge. I really do appreciate it, and all the support everyone's given. A lot of really cool stuff coming this summer, so do stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching, and slán.